Special time of year, Ryan. One thing we'll start out this podcast is last check-in. We'll start this out by saying one thing that you are thankful for, and it can be related to the UConn Huskies women's basketball team, where it can not be related to that. How about one thing that you're thankful for? I'm thankful for just being here on this last check-in video with you.
Yeah, well, this is certainly a time, I think, of Thanksgiving. I think of family. So I'm just grateful to, of course, do this podcast with you. Grateful for all my family and friends. So appreciate everybody for all the support. Of course, appreciate, I know Phil does too. We certainly appreciate all of you guys that tune in to watch us every single episode.
Put my finger right there at the camera. Thankful for you, everybody watching this video. We're thankful for you and your family, your friends, your wife, your husband, your children that watch
your
these
pets.
podcast videos. Who's that?
Your pets too.
Your pets. Your goldfish. Everybody that tunes in and watches these videos, man, and especially our subscribers. We cannot thank you enough, as Thanksgiving is tomorrow, Ryan. Tomorrow, just hours away from, you know me, man. You said you could care less, but I love it. Savannah Guthrie, Hoda Cobb, and Al Roker in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade live from New York on NBC, Ryan, 9 to 12. And Christmas is officially coming when you see the fat man roll through at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, you're certainly right about that. But I'll probably watch some of the parade as well. Guess it's a tradition every single year to just have it on Thanksgiving morning.
Well, I also know what you're going to watch, and that will be the series this weekend, and that's actually the UConn women. They're ready for a bountiful Thanksgiving of basketball at the center of the universe. It's the Phil Knight series, Ryan, and this is something special because obviously because UConn winning or losing, they're still going to have another game. And it's very special because ESPN didn't even give us a date or a time. I had no idea. You said, Phil, yeah, they play another game after they face Duke. So, Ryan, I know for a fact, maybe you'll watch the parade, but I know for a fact that you will be tuning in to UConn women's basketball versus Duke. What do you have for me?
Yeah, I mean, well, speaking of ESPN real quick, I don't know what's up with the ESPN app, but it seems like they don't have the schedule right. They don't have rosters right. But anyway, Duke comes into this game 5-0 record, but they haven't played any ranked opponents, much like NC State. Certainly nobody at UConn's level. So, but I found this pretty interesting. I know this is right because I went on Duke's official website, but they have 17 players on their roster, so I'm not really sure how it's possible. I've never really seen any women's basketball team with 17 players on their roster, but I'm not going to go over all of them, but I'll go over the players that we should see on the court, starting off with all the starters. Junior center Kennedy Brown, sophomore guard Lee Volker, sophomore guard Cheyenne Day Wilson, senior guard Chelsea Taylor, and junior guard Jordan Oliver. And coming off the bench as well, we have sophomore guard Reagan Richardson, senior forwards Mia Heidi and Elizabeth Belugan, junior guard Vanessa De Jesus, and freshman guard Ashlyn Jackson. So just looking at this Duke team, first initial reaction, there's a lot of guards on this team, or of course the guards get a lot of playing time. 4 of them in their starting lineup. I would assume that would stay the same. That's what Duke's gone with through their first 5 games, having 4 guards in their starting lineup. But I think the key for this game for UConn is going to be size. I expect UConn to dominate with their size down low. Expect Aaliyah and Aubrey to have big games again. And I would also expect UConn to win the rebounding margin by a lot. So I think UConn, that's something they can improve on as well through their first couple of games, is they're getting rebounds and boxing out, especially not allowing the other team to get offensive rebounds and second chance points. So I think the key for this game is going to be UConn's size. And if they can dominate, of course, the turnover margin like they always do, and get in rebounds as well, I think that's going to be the key.
Excuse me. Hopefully that didn't interfere that the sound of me opening up my binder, because we have to say predictions for the end. I like to write them down along with the MVP of the game, right? And it doesn't always have to be a Husky. Just remember that, which in this case, I'm sure that you and I are both going with a Husky as MVP of the game. I'm not saying that Duke doesn't have star players, but again, they haven't shown me that much this season. Their record is what, 5-0, but again, yeah, you're right. I mean, it almost seems like that UConn is running into these teams. UConn is running into these teams, ranked or not ranked, pretty much. And I don't know. Well, I wouldn't like to say at the right time, because I mean, their Duke is 5-0. So, but you know what I mean. It's just they haven't really showed me a lot yet. So hopefully, but yes, I was listening to you and you said it very well, going over that roster and breaking it down. I mean, Duke had a victory over Charleston. I guess University. Hopefully I'm right there. It was 111-50. They showed up in that game, but the rest of their games here I'm seeing against smaller schools. Now they did defeat Texas A&M. That was 71-52. But other than that, Duke is maybe my mathematics is terrible, Ryan. Mathematics. But if you want to do the math, I mean, other than that Charleston game, they're averaging maybe 50, 60 points a game. And I just don't think, I think that's my last check-in takeaway on this video is I'm not 100% sure if they can actually and of course we say that about a lot of teams, but again, in just this case specifically talking about Duke, I don't know if they can actually perform offensively against this UConn Huskies team, considering, I mean, look what as far as the defense, I mean, we've talked about Nika Mule now for weeks as far as her defense showing up. And I expect this Huskies defense to only get better down the stretch because guess why? They're going to have to, all right? Because now I'm not doubting AZ Fudd one bit, but you just have to believe, Ryan, you go through your ups and your downs, all right? I'm sure you agree with that in a season. This is actually leaning towards the good side. If AZ Fudd shows up every game, so be it. But I feel like even if AZ Fudd doesn't show up, we can't get on this pod and be like, oh, AZ Fudd didn't perform. The Huskies are done. That's why they lost. No. So maybe other players step up as far as leading in points some nights. But again, if Fudd has a down game, so be it. What about the defense?
Yeah, well, that's something we talked about earlier about, I think it was a comment that said if AZ doesn't score the most points or score about 25 or 30 points every game, who's going to be the player to step up? And certainly somebody else is going to have to step up. But I think that's why UConn gets so many wins and has such great successes, because obviously, like you said, their defense. So if their defense is on point every single game, like we expect it to be, now when they play tougher teams like Maryland and South Carolina, Notre Dame down the road, of course, their defense is going to have to be there. And, if they don't, AZ Fudd struggling, their offense is struggling to get going. That's why their defense is so good, because it impacts their offense so much and gets fast break points, turnovers, all that good stuff. So if UConn is on defensively every single game, that's definitely the key as well.
Okay, how about comments from the last video? UConn Huskies ranked 3rd in latest AP poll. A lot of discussion right here. We'll have fun with this. They came through very well. We will start off with, how about Grobel? Tonight, or excuse me, TN. I'm saying about tonight, text abbreviations here. We're not text messaging, Phil. Tennessee is a death spiral. They lost to Gonzaga, now 2-4. Haley Jones has no confidence in her jump shot. She was one-dimensional. Always trying to drive to the rim versus South Carolina height, which made her easier to guard. Stanford isn't making the Final Four if she plays one-dimensional. They also have issues with turnovers. 22 is way too many. So, see, it's when you look into it just a little bit more, thanks to Global, maybe we do have a good argument and good information backing us up that, hey, number one, South Carolina, number two, UConn.
Well, and that's what I was trying to say, and that's why I think UConn deserves to be number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And but despite all of those, all those bad things that happened against South Carolina, that Stanford had all those issues, they still took them into overtime. And really, I think everybody can agree that Stanford should have won that game. But yeah, I do think UConn just deserves to be number 2, especially beating teams previously ranked at number 3 and number 10. Beating 2 top 10 teams isn't easy, but UConn just makes it look so easy, right? So maybe that's why they're still ranked at 3. But I think if they can beat Duke and possibly Iowa, if they do face Iowa on Sunday, possibly we see the ranked at 2. But the rankings are great. It's great to have discussions and heated debates about them, but really all that matters, like we keep saying, is March. You have that number 1 seed next to your name. So
hold on, I hear the phone ring. I have to pick it up. It's Giannis Press. Giannis Press. Hello, yo guys, calling from London again. He goes, yo guys, London calling again, 4 a.m. this time. I think this is pretty cool, Ryan. AZ and the crew are number 3 realistically. Next year, they will win the NCAA again. South Carolina will repeat this year. Sorry. That will drive UConn Husky Nation mad, I know. But I've been a Geno fan since Kerry Bascom was Big East Player of the Year when most of y'all parents hadn't even met yet. When Paige Beckers arrived a couple years back, I wondered if she would become the greatest women's basketball Husky never to win a title. Finally, I see the light. Whoa, Ryan, but it's definitely not this year. Sorry to be realistic. Having said that, this is UConn where miracles do happen.
Well, I definitely agree with everything you just said. So it's definitely going to be interesting, of course, when we do get to March Madness, what seed the UConn Huskies are at. Of course, we still have a really long way to go until we get there. But I definitely think the fight through March Madness is going to be tough, just like it was last season. So for UConn to even get into the Final Four, honestly, is probably another win. Of course, everybody's obviously fighting for that championship title, and there can only be one winner, obviously. So that's the goal for every team. But it's going to be tough to beat South Carolina. I think that matchup later down the season is going to be important for both teams. I think learn a lot about each other, and possibly UConn and South Carolina could possibly meet in the championship game again. So I definitely think it's possible for UConn to win the championship still this season. I wasn't really that confident after these injuries, but UConn showed me a lot so far. So it's going to be interesting again, but I definitely think next year getting everybody back healthy, I think that's going to be the real shot to prove they can win a title with Paige Beckers.
It's crazy to have the tables turn, Ryan, because Shorian, excuse me, goes, I don't agree. Stanford was not upset and lost to number 1 in a very tight game. I'm a UConn fan. But if UConn would have supplanted Stanford, it would be BS. Okay. So, and then Shorian goes, Duke has played cupcakes like North Carolina State did. UConn should cream Duke. Well, I understand we're going week by week, but and it's crazy because then you look back at these comments and then what not what players, but what fans had commented, and even you and I, what we had said is stated months and months back, talking about when we reach March. And it's interesting because you're sitting back and you're like, man, I mean, should UConn really had been ranked number 2, most of the season? Because what about Ryan? What about next year? And I already have this happening. What about if UConn faces Stanford and UConn wins and we get a rematch? South Carolina and UConn. That's my point, Ryan.
Well, I mean, it could definitely happen.
But basically, are we just saying we're just going by week to week? AP, that's why there's not only one AP poll released. So we're just going by week to week. And then, you're telling me we look back in March and whatever happens, we're like, oh man, well, yeah, UConn should have been number 2.
Well, and that's why I think obviously that the AP poll it is week to week, and that's why I think UConn deserves to be 2, because in this last week they beat 2 top 10 teams. But
that's what I'm saying. What is going to be said, even coming out of your mouth, when UConn defeats Stanford in March?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. Obviously, there's a long way to go until the seedings, but it's definitely possible they see each other. And I'm really confident UConn can beat the Stanford team. Seems like Stanford has a couple issues that needs to be fixed, but Stanford's obviously a really, really good team. So I'm sure it's going to be a battle, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure that's an exciting matchup if that does happen. But I just think what UConn did last week, they deserve to be 2. It's just my opinion, but we'll see what happens in next week, and maybe eventually UConn will get to the number 2 spot.
I love it. Bobby Lance, as soon as I mentioned, I promise I didn't see this comment until now. I just talked about Nika Mule, and Bobby Lance goes, Ryan, maybe you should explain to your buddy. Well, first of all, it's not a buddy. Ryan is my cousin. How important a great point guard is. Ask fans of some pro men teams. He only gives credit to the big game scorer, never to Nika Mule. What a lack of respect. What a joke. Ryan, let's see if you have my back, though, on this one. Can you back me up? Because wasn't it not too long ago, not 1, not 2, but several comments over and over and over again all summer long. AZ Fudd can't do it. She can't take a leadership role. Oh yeah? Okay.
Yeah, and well, I mean, everybody was so high on Caroline Ducharme as well, because I know we got a lot of heat last season for not mentioning Caroline Ducharme, and of course, unfortunately, this season she hasn't really had the opportunity to make a lot of impact with injuries. She hasn't really seen a lot of playing time, so that's why me and you were so high in the off season about AZ Fudd stepping up, and especially when Paige Beckers went down, AZ Fudd was kind of the next man up, if you want to put it that way, with leading this team, and it definitely scored the most points. But Nika Mule is obviously going to be the main ball handler and setting the offense, much like Paige Beckers does. But the only difference is obviously Nika Mule is there for the defense and not the offense. So AZ Fudd just going to be the main scorer, and Nika Mule is going to be there for defense. But I think certainly AZ Fudd has taken the world by shock, I think, and maybe not some UConn fans, but just the way AZ Fudd stepped up the first 3 games is quite it's quite a spectacle.
Lindsay Matthews, first time I've seen this name. Thank you, Lindsay. AZ is amazing, but they have to get some numbers from some other players. It's too much to expect AZ to carry the team by herself. Come on, players, step up and score. So I would like to see a conversation between her, Ryan, and Bobby Lance. Do you understand? Because I'm feeling a lot of pressure after each episode, but guess what? I like it. I like it a lot. It's heated discussions. That's one of the reasons why I had the idea to start this podcast along with you and Austin, the one that founded it. But to get back down to the point, Ryan, so you see how, and it's the same exact video, same podcast, same video, but it seems like we just have not that far in between 2 different people going 2 separate directions.
Well, and that's what's so great about reading all these comments, and that's why we love talking about them. It adds something special to the show, and because everybody's going to have a different opinion or something different to say, so that's why we love going over as many comments as we can. But I think in that last game, I agree what they said, but I think in that last game we saw AZ Fudd start out really hot first and second quarter, and she kind of cooled down. She didn't score that many points in the second half, I don't believe. But we saw Lou Lopez step up. She didn't make any shots at all in the first half, but in the second half she scored 14 or 16 points. Albert Griffin was very, very good throughout the whole entire game, and Aaliyah Edwards as well. I think with Dorka out, they're losing a little bit of offense. And that's where I think Aaliyah Edwards needs to step up, get more aggressive, get more comfortable with her game overall. But obviously Nika Mule is there for the defense. Like I said, she's just not going to score a lot of points. That's just the player she is. So hopefully Caroline Ducharme can get healthy 100%. I really don't think she's at 100% yet. Obviously they're missing her offense just a little bit. She was really important last season, but Ayanna Patterson as well. She is there for defense, but her offense is definitely improving as the season goes on.
Two more. Michael Lawson. Ryan, you got me. I never thought you would mention my comment. However, getting back to the ranking, there's a lot of undefeated teams now. We would have to wait after the holidays when the dust settles. When the dust settles. If another player gets hurt, the coaching staff may have to get a walk-on from campus or the volleyball team. Wow, that's thinking outside the box.
Yeah, well, if we see too many more injuries, we probably will have to have a walk on, but let's certainly hope that doesn't happen. But it's definitely really unfortunate, but every team has to deal with it. But it just seems like UConn the past couple of years, that's been the narrative, is injuries and illnesses and all that stuff. So hopefully by March Madness, we can have about eight totally healthy players on the roster. That would definitely help a lot.
And one more, actually two more. I see you guys are doing so good commenting, man. Such good comments. I want to read them all, Ryan, but I know it's just not enough time. Not enough Tom, not enough Tom, not enough time. Bond Riley goes, couple of thoughts. First, this is just the end of the second week of the season. Listen to this. So everyone should just relax. That's right. Thanksgiving tomorrow, Ryan. Relax. Second thought, if UConn had played South Carolina and lost in overtime, would you think they should drop in the ranking? And remember, they were picked at number 19 in the preseason poll. Well, yeah, I guess Ryan and I shouldn't really complain too much then. I mean, talk about a big jump, 19-3.
Yeah, and it certainly is. And that just goes back to everybody kind of doubting UConn. And I think maybe the committee or whoever makes these AP polls still doubts them a little bit. But I think there's a lot of if, ands, or buts about everybody debating whether Stanford or UConn should be too. So there's a lot of, well, if UConn would have played Stanford or if UConn would have played South Carolina. So obviously none of that stuff has happened yet, but it's definitely going to be interesting when UConn plays South Carolina. Then it's certainly, if UConn wins that game, they will be number one, I would assume. And we'll just have to see. I mean, there's a long way to go. Each week we're going to get new rankings, obviously. So we'll see what happens down the road.
Gen X reacts. She goes, top three scores currently are all from the Big East, by the way. Don't sleep on the Big East. UConn has elevated this conference, and I'm here for it. The UConn connection is inspiring to watch. All the floor huddles, how all on the floor connect after a free throw. And when a player is on the floor, they all run over. Their motto is together. I've watched a lot of NCAA women's basketball and watched the little things teams do, and this team is very connected and focused. All the UConn champions have this same vibe. That's interesting, Ryan, because we discussed that a lot during the offseason about the little things. The little things.
And you can definitely tell, at least I can, by watching, especially through these first three games, the team is really close, and you can see the bond that everybody has, and it's really special to watch. So I'm sure everybody that goes to the games down there, you can feel the intensity in the building and how the team just comes together. And that's a good point about the Big East, because we said when we predicted the Big East in conference schedule and all the games that UConn plays in the Big East, we said the Big East isn't going to be a joke this year. There's going to be a couple good teams. Creighton ranked 16th. They're 5-0. They got another win last night. So they're certainly going to be a pretty tough challenge. And Villanova was another team I said as well during the offseason. I expect them to be pretty good. They're sitting at 23-4-0 right now. So It's definitely going to be tough when UConn plays some of these higher up Big East teams, but there's a lot of undefeated teams in the Big East right now, and it's going to be certainly tough to come out undefeated from the Big East.
That'll put a stop to it right there. It's time to hit the grocery store. I know, Ryan, you're going to get that 16-pound turkey, right? It's probably in your freezer, since you go turkey hunting during the springtime. So you probably just saved it up for tomorrow, right? But anyway, it's November 25th, 6:00. Ryan, once again, I will not be able to join you for the game recap, but I wish you luck and all the best, Ryan. Connecticut and Duke on Friday at 6:00. And again, this goes out to you, Ryan, and everyone else on this podcast. The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. Ryan, do not miss Savannah Guthrie and Company live tomorrow morning, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Happy Thanksgiving, Ryan, and I will talk to you next week.